All right, so I got a comment on how to hook up your node to your network. I have the ENT Tech Node Mark III, but a lot of the same nodes are very similar in setup process, and it's a real plug and play once you get everything set up for your IP and your ranges and things like that. So let's talk about it. Now they wanted to know how to also hook up the router in tow with it, so having the router and the node and your iPad all working together on the computer. So we're going to set all that up. But first, you're going to want to just plug in the node by itself to eliminate any issues and just get this set up if you haven't set it up yet. All right, so I got that plugged in via Ethernet. I know it's a lot of cabling here, sorry. And it's plugged in. Now, if yours came like mine, it's going to have a static IP address on the box itself or on the packaging or whatever, and a login code. You're going to want to take this IP and we're going to plug it into the computer. So just remember that those digits there. But I've already set mine up to an actual different static IP address of 192.168.50.160. So that's what I'll be using just for this demonstration. All right, so before you even log into the thing, what you want to do is you want to disable your Wi-Fi. Easy way to see this is just to hit Windows R if you're on a Windows. I think it's Command R if you're on a Mac. But you want to open up your run services and you want to type in ncpa.cpl. This is going to bring up your network connections real easy. So as you can see, I have a Wi-Fi on and I also have Ethernet. I'm just going to disable this just to make sure there's nothing interrupting it. We just want to be on Ethernet for this because that's what the device is. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to right click and I'm going to hit properties. Then I'm going to come down to my IPv4 Internet Protocol and hit properties again. Now this is where you might have selected on yours IP address automatically. Now depending on what that is, it might not be right. Because if you plug in your box to your computer and you try to just plug in the code on your internet here and just type in the IP manually, you might not get anything because you're not in the right range. So for mine was 192.168.50, and then whatever the other last three are, as long as they're not more than 255 is what you want to change. So the box is 192.168.50.10, and so I'm in that range, but mine's a 180. So I'm in the range. I will be able to access that box. So if I come over now to my internet and I type in the IP of the box, which I have set up actually as .170 in this case, not 110. Actually, it's 160, sorry. Now pops up the software that's embedded in the box itself. So this is where you can make all your changes to whatever your box is and whatever type. So if I come in here to settings, here's where you can change the name. You can turn on and off your DHCP, which I recommend turning off and setting a static IP address. So now you got to decide what your IP is going to be, because you're going to set the range of that to each device. Each device is going to be in the range and then have a separate last three-digit number. So in my case, I went with the 192.168.50. Whatever. The box here is 160. My computer's 180, and then my router is in this case it's my gateway IP number. It's .3, and then you're going to want to have your subnet mask, which is actually the same for each device. You want to have that the same. So for this particular range of 192.168.50, it's 255, 255, 255.0. If you choose a different IP address that starts with like 10 or 2, this subnet might change. So I recommend picking something that you know the range of, or just looking up if you're going to have a 2 dot number for ArtNet or something to know what net mask it is, because it does change. So now I got all that static IP set up. I can also change the ports here. This is to your liking. That's up to you how you want to change it, but you're going to want to make sure that whatever you're outputting on your console or whatever is going to be outputting from the box is the same. So SACN or ArtNet as you prefer. All right, so in my case, I do have some statistics here, so I can see data packets of what's coming in, which is nice for SACN or ArtNet. And then you can also come down here to the universe and see actual DMX values from 0 to 512. Your box might be different, but the basic setup here for your IP, netmask, and gateway are all the same. So once you have picked your main IP address, you can go ahead and unplug this, because we're going to need to plug this into the router to get everything connected the way you like. So I went over another video on how to set up the router and how to get it all working together. But we're going to plug this in here. Okay, so now my computer is coming into my router, and then I have another line, this yellow line, which I'm going to reattach to the box. Just make sure that this is in the same range for your Wi-Fi and then for the gateway as well. So it's in that 192.168.50 range for me in this particular case. Now the person who commented wanted to know how to hook up an iPad as well. You could do this two different ways. You could either hardwire the iPad directly into the switch or in your router, or you could just go off the Wi-Fi from the iPad from what the Wi-Fi router is. Either way, you just want to make sure that your IP ranges are set up the same way. So let's go over that. I'm going to go into my wireless settings, find the Wi-Fi of the router itself. And as you can see here, I found it here. It's the first one. I'm going to go ahead and connect to it. Now that I'm connected, I'm going to go to my Wi-Fi settings. You want to come over and hit this little I. It's going to bring up the actual manual inputs. Scroll down, and yours is probably configured here to configure IP to main or automatic. What you want to do is change that to manual, and you do that just by clicking on it, clicking manual, and then you might have to come back. Then you're able to set up your static IP address like you would the node or the router itself. So again, in my particular case, I've got the same range IP of that 192, and the last three are 197. You want to make sure you have a unique number for the last three digits for each device. And then again, my subnet mask is the same. Those are always exactly the same. And then depending on what you're doing, you might not have to put this in. I just do it for because it's there. You got your router gateway, which I have set to the same number as the router. So that's that 0.3. Sometimes you don't need it, but in this case, I just do it because it's there. I'm going to go ahead and open up Blackout here and just go to a project I have. This is what's going to be outputting my ArtNet or SACN. Again, I'm using SACN, so I have that on here. And then again, I can check my Wi-Fi up here, and it's giving me the IP range, so that is good because it's the same exact one as what we set. Now if I come in and I start just turning things on, I can come back into my computer. So if I come over down here to my Universe 1, click this, and I start, you can already see some values there. And if I start taking values away, I got to auto refresh enable, you can see that values are changing and I'm getting signal. And from there I would take out of that, I would come out of that node to my preferred method of delivery, whether that be a wireless CRMX or just a hardwired DMX. Now if you wanted to do it with the ART denominator, let me change over to ArtNet on my iPad. This is for ArtNet only. You want to come in, you want to make sure you're on your Ethernet device, which in my case is the .180 gigabit Ethernet. And you can see there's some green packets coming in. If I click on my first universe, I've got some values here, and if I change it on the iPad, you can see the values are changing in real time. So this is a great little program if you're using ArtNet, because you can actually see the history as well with this waveform, and you can see the physical channels and what's registering all the way up to 512. Really like this program. It's free. I'll put it in the description. Great thing to have if you're using ArtNet. Now, if you're using SACN, I recommend you can use something called Wireshark. This is also a free program. I'll put it in the description. Now, right now, I am on ArtNet. As you can see it, you start seeing values and you start seeing protocols. Protocols is what you really want to look for. And you can see it says ArtNet DMX and DMX channels. Now, if I scroll down to where it's automatically populating and I start scrolling up and down channels, you can see it really populating the DMX channels. So you know that it is working well. Now if I was on SACN in this case, let me go back to SACN. Now we can see it's changed over to a UDP type protocol, and that's basically SACN protocol. So if you see UDP signals, you know that you're getting SACN through just fine. So Wireshark or the ART denominator, however you want to say it, great little protocols to use or great little programs to use to see if your protocol is coming in. Now again, the main thing is your IPs are in range, your subnets are all the same, and that you are outputting the same protocol as you would for your device. So if I'm outputting SACN on here, I want to make sure that there's SACN coming out of the node. Some routers can't handle SACN. Some routers just don't have the ability. And ArtNet's what you're going to want to use in that case. ArtNet usually works fine for pretty much everything. It's an older protocol, but it is updated. But it just works better for a lot more things, and sometimes it's just better overall. Pick what you want, but either protocol usually works fine. So that is how I set mine up. Again, just want to make sure all the IPs are in the same range, and pick an IP range that's not going to collide with something like a different Wi-Fi. if you have another Wi-Fi point in the same area, you're going to want to make sure that they're on different ranges. So maybe in this case, I would do 192.168.70 and then change everything to that range. So do it as you prefer, but that's the way I would do it. Now, if you guys have any other questions, let me know about the node or the router or the routings. Be glad to help. If you enjoyed the video, please give me a like, subscribe. It really helps me out. We'll see you next week.